What's up, everyone? It's your boy Jack OATz to go. You either know or you don't. So this video, we're going to be talking about Nacht and some things that I found today while I was just prowling the web. And maybe not specifically about Nacht, but some interesting things that I think could tie into who Nacht is and part of his origin. I came across a couple of really interesting things. I'm probably going to start with the first one I found, which is probably the least likely, but could also hold a little bit of weight if we kind of shift some things here and there. And then as we go on, there's going to be four different things I'm going to go over about Nacht and some parallels that I'm finding in certain lore. And then after that, we'll be talking about Nacht and Yami and their potential connection. And I think that's where things get really, really interesting. And it's really going to be a talk about fate and whatnot, because this is a theme in Black Clover, and it's becoming more and more apparent as the chapters go on. And I think the clip off this whole arc, this Spade arc, is going to really drive that home for us. I think this is the setup to us building on the lore that Tabata has been putting out for us since the beginning of Black Clover. So let's just get started. So I was just, messing around on the internet. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to see what things I can dig up as far as Nacht goes and see if anything matches, and came across some German lore. Now, I know a lot of people that read the series are definitely on board with Nacht and his demons being having German background, which makes complete sense because Nacht is German for night. So, and the animals that he keeps around him are definitely part of a German legend. So it does fall in line. So if we keep this theme going, we do have, this is a legitimate bird, but also something that is in German mythology. And this is called the Nacht crap. And I'm not saying Nacht is crap. He's kind of got a crappy attitude, but I mean, it's called a Nacht crap. It's a bad name, honestly. It's a bad name. Yeah. But so it's I'm just gonna read it for you. It says several versions of the Nacht crap exist. In most legends, the Nacht crap is described as a giant, nocturnal, raven-like bird. In Norse mythology, the Nacht crap is depicted with no eyes, which, if looked into, cause death. It is also depicted with holes in its wings, which cause illness and disease if looked at. Some of the most common legends claim that the Nacht crap leaves its hiding place at night to hunt. If it is seen by little children, it will abduct them into its nest and messily devour them, first ripping off their limbs and then picking out their heart. There's a lot more to this. The rest of it just doesn't really fit Nacht, as we know for now. Nacht and children kind of don't mix. I mean, we don't see Nacht just tearing kids apart when they look at him. But I did find this kind of interesting as far as, I'll get into it later, why I even brought this up. It's going to come maybe in like 3-ish minutes from now, but there was a reason that this got pulled up for me, because I was looking for something very specific to push a certain agenda that I've been pushing for a while. But yeah, this was something that I came across, and I was thinking like, okay, well, the Raven stuff doesn't really work. He's not a giant. Again, we're gonna get into why I pulled this up, but I do find it odd that we know Nacht doesn't have a grimoire that is marked. It's got some designs on it, but it's not actually marked by anything. And that's the most interesting part. And I do believe I said this in another video, but I think that it's possible that this grimoire was actually manufactured by whoever this following or cult is that have been doing these rituals, and it was passed down so that they would be able to do this. Because not everyone would be born with the magic to access the realm that Nacht put OATz into to be able to do these ceremonies. So I think that is not his actual grimoire, which would explain why Jack was really confused as to why Nacht's power or magic was not matching what he remembered him as. So I think that could explain it. And I was thinking like maybe it has something to do with ravens. Maybe he does cause illnesses and disease. We don't know, and we of course don't know what happened with his family. There's no telling what's going on, and with the animal demons that he's got with him, like Gimandello and the rooster, all of them in the Germanic legend that people are latching onto for this theory, they do also cause different types of for the lack of a better term, chaos as far as farming goes. Some of them cause famine and whatnot. So this raven that we just described, this giant nocturnal raven-like bird called the Nacht crab, would definitely coincide with what these demonic animals do in the German legend. So I think it's kind of cool. We'll kind of circle back around to this because, like I said, there is a reason why this did come up while I was searching. The next one. Now, you guys might laugh a little bit because I did. But I came across Krampus. Now, if you're not familiar with Krampus, I don't know where you've been, but it's almost Christmas, and this is fitting. So Krampus is pretty much like evil Santa. Instead of giving gifts, in some version he gives coals, and in other versions he actually kills children. He either eats them or drowns them and whatnot. Stuffs them into a bag to do so, and yeah, pretty terrifying guy. He's got horns, hooved feet, just demon looking, and yeah, it's wild. But if you haven't heard of Krampus, just look it up. There's like movies out there. There's one good movie about Krampus, and if you're up for it, take a look. But so I'm going to read to you a little bit about the origins of Krampus, and I want you to, of course, think about Nacht as I'm reading this. So it says, there seems to be little doubt as to his true identity, for in no other form is the full regalia of the Horned God. We're going to circle back around to the Horned God. There's some really interesting stuff about the Horned God. So, in no other form is there full regalia of the Horned God, of the which is so well preserved. The birch, apart from its phallic significance, may have a connection with the initiation rites of certain witch covens, rites which entail the binding and scourging as a form of mock death. The chains could have been introduced in a Christian attempt to bind the devil, but again, they could be a remnant of pagan initiation rites. Tell me that doesn't sound kind of similar to what we're seeing. I mean, we're talking about chains that are used to bind the devil. This is exactly what we see in that picture where we have, those animals chained down. This is exactly what we see when we see Liabe finally get beaten to submission and chained down. This is part of that union. And I think this perfectly displays like exactly what we're seeing, which is honestly kind of weird. You would never think like, oh, yeah, Nacht and Krampus are definitely parallels. I think it's interesting, but this definitely has a lot of weight to it. There's a little more that I'm gonna read to you. This is really interesting. I did not know that in recent years the myth of Krampus is actually the son of Hel, who's the Norse goddess of the underworld. And I bring that up because this is going to go into the Nacht and Yami connection. And if you've been watching my videos for a while now, you will know kind of where I'm getting at. it's yeah, we're going to get into it. I don't want to spoil it all right now. I just want to focus on Nacht, but I do want you to remember that the myth of Krampus is in recent years has become the son of Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld. Very cool. I had no idea about that. So we're going to read a little bit more about Krampus. This is probably going to be the last part that I want to read because the rest is kind of irrelevant. It says, although Krampus appears in many variations, most share some common physical characteristics. He's hairy, Nacht really isn't hairy, usually brown or black, and has the cloven hooves and horns of a goat. His long pointed tongue lolls out, and he has fangs. So, as you know, this doesn't describe Nacht in his human form, but imagine him getting into other forms. He definitely has all of these things. Maybe not necessarily of a goat, but there is a horse demon there. So it's the same kind of hoof, really. The tongue, probably not in any of those forms. But it says he has fangs, and we see that for the relics, he's got the fang of one of the demons. He's also got the talon of one of the demons, and a feather and part of a mane or part of the horse's tail or something. And if you think about Krampus, if you've ever seen pictures or depictions of Krampus, he's all of these things combined almost. He's a very hellish looking creature, so it would be kind of cool to see Nacht to do all four unions at once and end up looking like Krampus and stuffing kids into a bag and eating them and drowning kids. Wow. Anyway, Krampus carries chains thought to symbolize the binding of the devil by the Christian church. He thrashes the chains for dramatic effect. The chains are sometimes accompanied with bells of various sizes. This is honestly one of the cooler things I've read. I mean, if Tabata includes a Krampus parallel in Black Clover, I would be forever stoked. This is definitely different. But there's one last sentence here. God, this is when you think you turn off notifications. They don't. Come on. There's one last sentence here that I do want to stick in your head as we get into the Yami and Nacht stuff. So it says, sometimes Krampus appears with a sack or a basket strapped to his back. This is to cart off evil children for drowning, eating, or transporting to hell. Now, forget the children part. Nacht, we know, doesn't have a sack or a basket strapped to his back. But have we seen him kind of transport someone to a shadow realm? We most definitely have. And this will go into the last point about Nacht, which is not now. It's going to be after this. So I said we would circle back around to the horned god. This was so interesting to me. And I'm straight up just going to read this to you. And of course, think about Nacht as I'm reading this. So the horned god is one of the two primary deities found in Wicca and some related forms of neo-paganism. The term horned god itself predates Wicca and is an early 20th century syncretic term for a horned or antlered anthropomorphic god, partly based on historical horned deities. The horned god represents the male part of the religion's duotheistic theological system, the consort of the female triple goddess of moon or other mother goddesses. In common Wiccan belief, he is associated with nature, wilderness, sexuality, hunting, and the lifestyle. Whilst depictions of the deity vary, he is always shown with either horns or antlers upon his head, often depicted as being thericophalic, having a beast head. In this way, emphasizing the union of the divine and the animal, the latter of which includes humanity. So I thought probably towards the end here was probably so cool when you think about Nacht. So the horned god is associated with nature, wilderness, sexuality, hunting, and the life cycle. And we literally saw the hunt part of this, right? And of course the wilderness. He's got all animals. And he's pretty much, I won't say always has horns on his head, But for the most part, when he is fighting or using a spell, he's got his horns. He had Gimadello's horns when we first saw him, when he was first actually introduced, not hooded Nacht. And then, of course, when we get into the Spade Kingdom as he's transporting everyone there, he's got the other horns of another demon. I think it was the cat demon's horns that he's got. So he's kind of carrying this description pretty well already. So this next part says, in traditional Wicca, the horned god is generally regarded as a dualistic god of twofold aspects, bright and dark, night and day, summer and winter, the Oak King and the Holly King. All right, so this is Nacht. We see the dualistic parts of Nacht. You see him turn the switch from like kind of happy-go-lucky Nacht to just like bags under his eyes, shadow over his face, like I hate you people. This is Nacht. He is the duality of man, honestly. And I think it's really interesting that we have the Oak King and the Holly King. I do have some more like researching to do because I'm not completely familiar with this, but I do think I have a reveal on Nacht's brother's name, and you might laugh at. I have a couple of different theories on what his name is and the importance of it, but yeah, you might laugh at one of them for sure. So I'm going to keep going. In this dualistic view, his two horns symbolize in part his dual nature. The use of the horns to symbolize duality is also reflected in the phrase, on the horns of a dilemma. The three aspects of the goddess and the two aspects of the horned god are sometimes mapped onto the 5 points of the pentagram, although which points correspond to which deity aspects varies. In some other systems, he is represented as a true-winged god, split into 3 aspects that reflect those of triple goddess, the youth, the father, and the sage. The horned god has been explored within several psychological theories, and it's become a recurrent theme in fantasy literature, which is really cool. There is so much about the horned god. And it brings up a goddess of the Triune. Doesn't have too much to do with anything right now. Nothing to connect anything with Nacht with yet. So I'm kind of skipping those parts. But to keep going on this, the Wiccan god himself, the horned god, can be represented in many forms, including as the sun god, the sacrifice god, and the vegetation god. Now, I'm not quite sure about the sun god, but sacrifice god, maybe. I mean, he was definitely in Seke's ear talking about sacrifice yourself for the good people. And then we have the vegetation god. And if you are one of those people that are latching on to the theory that those demons that he carries with him have to do with the Germanic legend, where those demons affect vegetation, then this should make complete sense to you, right? This whole thing about the horned god really does represent Nacht pretty well, and especially when it talks about the duality of who this person is and what they represent. It just makes sense. So that's about the horned god. Now the last part I'm going to talk about, we're kind of segue into Yami and Nacht's relationship, as well as the parallel for Yami, which you should already know if you've been watching me. And then kind of circle back to why I even started out with the Noctin Crapper or whatever it was called, the Raven thing. So this is in Roman mythology. This deity's name is Orcus. And Orcus is a god of the underworld. He's the punisher of broken oaths in Italic and Roman mythology. As with Hades, the name of the god was also used for the underworld itself. In the later tradition, he was conflated with Dispater. So what's kind of cool about this is that Nacht is very particular about what kind of people he likes. He doesn't like everyone, as you know. But imagine if someone is not true to themselves, does break an oath, Nacht is not going to forgive them. And he does illustrate this when he does talk about the triad who are evil for no good reason, which is not really recognizing the self as one should. So Nacht, even though he seems very rigid and can be cruel at times, his personality makes sense if you put it in this perception. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out when I want to drop the Yami and Nacht bomb right now, or do I want to get a little bit more into OATz? And to be forthcoming, the description of OATz is nothing to do with Nacht. OATz is hairy, he's bearded, and he's actually a giant, and he's a cyclops, I do believe. So, I mean, definitely not like Nacht at all. Physically, but it doesn't have to be if it's a parallel. This is a writing of someone else, so you can definitely portray people a different way. So it's kind of cool. So I guess I have to start getting into the Nacht and Yami stuff. I kind of don't want to drop it right now. I feel like there's a little more that I wanted to talk about. Okay, I guess I kind of will get into all that stuff. So, if you have been watching me for a while now, you know that I'm definitely on board with Yami being a giant, and not just like a giant, like a big giant skyscraping giant. I don't know how many times I have to say that. But he's a Jötunn. This is a specific Norse mythological creature. It's a term for a giant. And Jötunn aren't necessarily giant in stature. They can be human size, like 6 feet tall, but they can also range to being actual giants. And Jötunn do double up as devils or demons in Norse mythology. It's a matter of intent. So if you have a Jötunn who's out to destroy the world, that one would be a demon. If you have one that is trying to do good, that one just remains a Jötunn. There are some who are regarded as gods, like Thor is a Jötunn, or Odin, one of them, or both. I gotta remember my stuff. But the connection that I'm trying to make here is that Yami, we know, has dark magic. Dark magic has not been seen in this entire series up until we see Nacht, who doesn't have dark magic per se. He's got shadow magic. But this is still very, very rare. And again, we've only seen it with Yami, and we know Yami has come from a land far away from the Clover Kingdom. And it's just very strange that this foreigner just happens to be very vital to this plan to open the gates of Klipoth. It's no coincidence to me that Yami has a significant importance, and I don't want to rehash a video that I already made. So if you want to go back and look for it, I do talk about a conspiracy between Julius, Marx, Yami. There's Charmies involved in this and all of that. But the main point of it is that Yami could have been purposely sent by Jötunn from his homeland to possibly go receive a grimoire. And the reason I say this is that Yami, where he comes from, he notes that they use ki, right? He says it can be used for detecting people. They can detect lies, and everyone's ki is different. You don't run across people that have the same ki usually. And this could go into a bigger conversation about whether ki can be weaponized or not. That's another topic. That'd be really cool if they did, but then we get all the haters like, oh, they're just copying Dragon Ball Z now. Ugh. But anyway, it could be possible that they use a completely different system of magic, or energy rather, than the people from the Spade, Clover, Diamond, and Heart. It's very possible that they don't even get grimoires, and this is why they sent Yami overseas to go get one. Now, whether Yami is in on this or not is completely under speculation. I think there are valid reasons to him, yes, being aware of his role, and then also factors that would go for the fact that he doesn't know his heritage quite well, because he doesn't talk about it that much. But again, a lot of this is in the conspiracy video. Marx is involved with all of that stuff, and so is Julius. So with that said, I want to go back to when I said Nacht's grimoire is possibly just manufactured and passed down, and this would align with my theory of Yami being sent to go get a grimoire. Now, why would Yami be sent to come get a grimoire? As we know, Zagrid came to the world of the living to obtain not only a body, but a grimoire, because the grimoire would have made him stronger. And I say this a lot when people kind of question the purpose of a grimoire. Yes, someone can have massive amounts of mana. This does not increase your mana. It does not decrease your mana. What it does is take a blunt sword and sharpen it. So where we have Yuno with wind spells, he can maybe create a strong gust of wind. With a grimoire, he can sharpen that blade and make arrows and daggers and swords. This is the point of a grimoire, to refine those spells that the user could have. So Yami's whole thing with dark magic, and he's got a pet Cerberus, and like I said, you probably know where I'm going. His Greek parallel would most likely be Hades. He is not the key to opening Clipoff for no reason. And like I said, when Jötunn double up as demons, it's no wonder that Lucifero knew Yami Sukihiro by name. And we see that when Dante is floating in front of the crystal or ice that Lucifero was, I guess, trapped in, or just in, whatever that was, before he goes to the Black Bull base. They know him specifically by name. While they don't know William by name, they just knew he was just like, yeah, we need this guy, this mage. So that's even more interesting. And so I believe that Yami potentially knows that he's a key to do something. Now, to bring Nacht into this, think of this as Yami was sent to get the grimoire. They were expecting him to do a job, whatever job that was, maybe just simply come back and then carry on whatever agenda they were trying to carry out, or whatever. But he doesn't come back. He decides to stay loyal to the Clover Kingdom, and so they send another one. They send Nacht this time, and Nacht doesn't have a actual grimoire. He's too old to receive one at this point. So now someone has to manufacture a grimoire for him. Who that was, don't know. This is just, again, I should have prefaced it, this is my crackhead theory. But, someone could have manufactured one for him. Who knows? There's this giant gap between, like, what Jack thinks his magic is and what his magic is to us right now. And once we figure that out, we can probably narrow in a little bit better of what's going on. But it is, in this situation, it is quite possible that Nacht is also a Jötunn. And he doesn't like Yami for the fact that he's pretty much abandoning his people. He chose the Clover Kingdom and his comrades over the people that bore and raised him for a part of his life, which for someone like Nacht would be unforgivable. You know, which is like kind of William-esque, which would kind of be beautiful writing that we gave up, or William gave up the Clover Kingdom for the elves, and then you have Yami kind of giving up his people for the Clover Kingdom, but he's not out there actively trying to kill them, which would be the big difference there. But I do find this really interesting, you know, that Nacht is so vehemently against Yami. And yeah, I don't know. But the fact that Nacht uses the devils so nonchalantly has me thinking that whatever potential agenda that I have in my own crazy head about the Jötunn sending Yami over has to do with Clip-Off and releasing some of these demons, or devils rather. And yeah, I'm not completely sure, as you can probably tell in my voice, but there's just these pieces of lore that kind of coincide with each other. And I'm just trying to piece them together because Tabata does draw on a few different lores, but mainly Kabbalistic and Norse lore. So while there are other elements, it is definitely hard to put all these pieces together. But that's kind of all I've got for this video. I hope you liked it. Hopefully it made sense. But you guys tell me what you think about Nacht and his relationship with Yami, and whether or not you agree that it could potentially be opening us up for a bigger story overseas where we might see Jötunn. And before I even end the video, I did not come up with like Jötunn existing in this universe. I got it from Broku, and he was very solid with the points that he made, and I've definitely adopted it. So this is not like solely my own, but this theory concerning Nacht and Yami definitely is. So you guys tell me what you think in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter. This has been OATz to go. You either know or you do. Jesus Christ. I haven't used Tinder in like years. What the fuck was that? Guys, it's been OATz to go. You either know or you don't.